So our primary program, up until everyone dispersed to their homes, was providing mindfulness and classical music every day over the morning announcements for schools. And mindful poetry was an add-on for Poetry Month. And we had luckily decided that, thanks to a few sweet funders of the Wild Geese Collective, that we would offer this for free to everyone everywhere. So if you don't already have all of the audio files and resources, we'll make sure you have them. I'm going to introduce several of my collaborators here in a second, but I wanted to set an intention for our time together. So when we were at the gathering, we were invited by the conveners on Being that the hope for us is that we would leave our weekend feeling nourished, emboldened, and accompanied. And that resonates with me still, and especially in this time. So that is my hope for all of us today, is that we leave feeling nourished, emboldened, and accompanied. And as a bit of a caveat, when I think of emboldened, especially in this strange time of, as Troy said earlier, the yield, the softening, we have an opportunity to find a new way to think about that emboldened muscle. We've been given time to see if we can find a way to be emboldened and perhaps less performative. And I'm mainly speaking to myself, or always strongly speaking to myself. So I want to kick us off with a quick meditation. So I invite everyone to take a second and find your feet, find your seat, feel perhaps as though you're a human sandbag, and all of the sand of self just rushes to the base, so you really feel grounded. At the same time, a lifting of the spine. If you move your tongue to the back of the roof of the mouth, that back upper palate, and if you lift your spine from there, that is our first somatic lengthen, that suckle response, that yearning. It is purposeful and gentle. Place your palms in a purposeful and comfortable position. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. And find your breath moving in your body. Notice the poem of yourself. Your heartbeat creates the rhythm. Perhaps your skeletal structure are the nouns. Your breath, the space between the words. The cells, moving, verbs. And even though we're separated, sense the 40 to 60 some other human poems sitting here today together. Deepen your breath. Make small movements. Come back to this moment of gathering. So, Abby, you want to raise your hand, Abby? So Abby is going to be our technician. So she's going to be organizing us today. There's a handful of others who I'm going to introduce you to at the end, because you'll be seeing more of our group. We were going to gather in Cincinnati, Ohio at the beautiful Mercantile Library, and this change of status is allowing us to have a different kind of gathering. But I want you to meet the original cohort. Our format today, which is going to be our format pretty much as we move forward with our additional gatherings, is that we're going to listen, we're going to write response poems, we're going to share them with one another in small groups, and then we're going to listen again. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce you to my fantastic colleague, Eddie Gonzalez from On Being, who will talk a little bit more about our special guest, Padre Otuma. Eddie, can I turn it over to you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to see all of you here. It's lovely to be part of your different rooms. I'm loving seeing all of your faces. And excited to introduce today Padre Otuma, who has been working with us at On Being in a variety of different ways. Padre grew up in Cork on the south coast of Ireland, a radio listener, poetry reader, and a wisher that he could be that he could share Wonder Woman's superpowers. He has a love for Wonder Woman, and he's he has degrees in theology, and he's a terrific poet, several publications, a lovely human being, a convener as well. And with the work that we've been doing recently at On Being, he started hosting a poetry podcast called Poetry Unbound. And if you all get a chance to check it out, it's a sort of lovely way to spend some time with poetry. I would say about it, it's nourishing, it's short, it's unhurried, contemplative, and also energizing. And I'm just really grateful that he said that he would join for today and guide us through listening to this poem, guide us into our writing prompt, and just celebrating that we're all getting a chance to be together. So without further ado, here's Padre Otuma.
Hi everybody, it's lovely to be with you. I'm in Ireland on the coast, on the border between two counties, Fermanagh and Donegal, in the northwest of Ireland. So it's dark here, it's getting dark, and it's light where you are. And I'm seeing all of your kitchens or living rooms or bedrooms, and what strange times we find ourselves in. So first of all, I want to add my greeting to you, and not only to you, but also to everything that you're facing. I'm sure lots of you are facing concerns and changed plans, questions to do with money, questions to do with rent, questions to do with work, questions to do with the safety of other people. And I think it's a good thing to turn to poetry. Poetry isn't the final word in any of this, but certainly poetry can help us connect with ourselves in order to be able to have the fortitude to face what we need to face. I don't think I could survive my life without poetry. I've worked in conflict resolution for a long time, and the more conflicts that I was being involved in mediating, the more poems I needed to read. The less well I slept because of work just meant I had more time to read more poems, and that helped. So hello to all of you. Be hospitable to yourself as we look at this poem. We're going to look at a poem called Three Gratitudes by Carrie Newcomer. Carrie Newcomer is a musician as well as a poet. She has 2 volumes of poetry, and she has this beautiful poem. I'll read it, and then we'll hear it at the end as well. I'll say a few things about it after I read it. Three Gratitudes. Every night before I go to sleep, I say out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. All the significant, insignificant, extraordinary, ordinary stuff of my life. It's a small practice and humble, and yet I find I sleep better, holding what lightens and softens my life, ever so briefly at the end of the day. Sunlight and blueberries, good dogs and wool socks, a fine rain, a good friend, fresh basil and wild phlox, my father's good health, my daughter's new job, that song that always makes me cry, always at the same part, no matter how many times I hear it, decent coffee at the airport, and your quiet breathing, the stories you told me, the frost patterns on the windows, English horns and banjos, wood thrush and June bugs, the smooth, glassy calm of the morning pond, an old coat, a new poem, my library card, and that my car keeps running despite all the miles. And after 3 things, more often than not, I get on a roll and I just keep on going. I keep naming and listing until I lie grinning, blankets pulled up to my chin, awash with wonder at the sweetness of it all. So it's a gracious and generous poem. I'd like to say a few things about it. First of all, this poem really you can consider to be in 3 parts. The first part and the final part mirror each other a little bit in the sense of that it begins with a person with a nightly practice. In the first part, they're narrating a nightly practice. And then it ends up, she's lying in bed, grinning, blankets pulled up. You get a sense of the blankets pulled up to her chin, awash with wonder. It's strange to talk about being in bed and awash. She brings together often enough some very unexpected things here, lying in bed, awash with wonder at the sweetness of it all. And we think about what that might mean to lie in bed. You know, often when you think about lying in bed at the end of the day, you're tired. But yet this practice of gratitude seems to bring Carrie Newcomer to something that actually refreshes her before she sleeps, rather than looking at sleep as refreshing. So those are the part 1 and part 3. And part 2 really is this long list of beautiful things. And partly as we come to thinking about what your own writing might be, it might be that you want to think about structuring something in 3 ways. That part 1 and part 3 mirror each other, and part 2 is a list of the things that you're holding with you. When it comes to you responding to this in poetry, you might want to think about things you're grateful for. You're also really welcome to write about things that you're concerned about, because we're in concerning times. And poetry doesn't have to always turn to make itself happy. You can get great consolation sometimes by writing a poem that just says, here's the things I'm carrying, let me number them. There's 12, number 1, number 2, number 3. And just by naming them sometimes, you can name them and then put them aside. So you don't just have to think about gratitude in this, you might also think about things that you're concerned about. And things you're concerned about are demonstrations of love, really, which all of these things are too. She says interesting things in the poem. She speaks about at the start in line 4 and 5, significant, insignificant, extraordinary, ordinary. And these are very predictable things, one, the other, one, the other. But the pairing of them together seems to make you think a little bit of breathing. Significant, insignificant, extraordinary, ordinary. And I think that there's something really lovely about imagining that we're hearing her breathe through the practice of this. And then this poem is playing with time as well. It starts off by saying every night. And then she speaks about, I sleep better. So this poem is written from the point of view of clearly having practiced this for a while. Time is moving. practices can help a day go past. And certainly with all of us having very changed schedules, some people extraordinarily full schedules because of caring responsibilities, perhaps for parents or siblings or children or neighbors' children or children that are children of vital workers, as well as your own job, as well as everything else. People might have very little time to put in rhythms, but I think during extraordinary times like this, some rhythms can help. There's an interesting approach to light. So holding what lightens and softens my life. And then a few lines later, sunlight and blueberries. So we're thinking of falling asleep, but yet she's holding in her heart something that is filled with the quality of light. I always like to think that that light and darkness are each a blessing. And I think it's very important when it comes to thinking about poetry and language that we use to speak about the gift of the dark and the gift of the light. I think that's always a very important thing to speak of. I once wrote a blessing for blessing the 7 nights of creation. It was a little play on the Hebrew poem of creation. I wanted to think not just about the days, but about the nights too. The things that she uses to describe all of these things she's grateful for, I'm just going to call out the descriptors. Good, fine, good, fresh, wild, good, new, decent, quiet, smooth, old, new. So there's a few things that are repeated there. But I suppose I'm curious about what, if you were to name the things you're full of gratitude for, or if you were to name the things that are causing you concern, what descriptors would you use? Heavy, tired, repeated, joyous, unexpected, surprising, who knows? It might be that as you're thinking of constructing something that you want to write, you want to write out some descriptors first and then link those with other things. I'm so interested in that bit, just after that funny line, decent coffee at the airport, which I think is great. I'm Irish, and so therefore I can drink my own body weight in tea on a daily basis. And whenever I travel to the United States, I always bring my own tea with me because, lovely country that you are, American tea is bloody awful. So I take my own with me. So I'm always amazed if I'm ever anywhere in America where there's decent tea anywhere. So I can connect with her, not over coffee, but over a drink that you love as a comfort. Anyway, just after that, there's this really interesting quiet moment and your quiet breathing. Who's the you? She's speaking to herself. She's speaking to a spouse or partner, we don't know. Could she be speaking to us? Is she speaking to the reader? And then the stories you've told me. So here we get to the deep intimacy at part of this poem. I think it's quite amazing that in the midst of these funny and engaging and everyday moments, there's those 2 lines that are just nestled in there that are very, very intimate. And I think it's a nice thing to think that they can mean 3 or 4 different things rather than just only one thing. It's easy to imagine that it's a partner, but maybe not. And even if she wants it to be referencing a partner, and it possibly is, and we can make it mean something else, because that's the whole point of poetry, is to be able to make it mean something. And then, as I was saying, it brings us back to the, via the car that keeps on running unexpectedly. And it brings us back to the poet lying in bed, thinking about what is going on, and filled and awash with gratitude, and that the weariness of the day is passing even before sleep arrives, and that somehow she's aiding the blessing of sleep and the blessing of the night by bringing into the night what the day has offered. And you can imagine that there could be also a way to get up in the morning and to think about, what am I grateful for the blessing of the night? So these might be some things that you want to think about as you take some time to respond. I think Stacey's going to lead us into the part where we respond. But it's a beautiful poem, and it's lovely to explore it with you.
Thank you so much. So, I got so, I was so happy to listen. I have to get my talking self back. So we have prepared a template for you. There's as Padre illustrated, there's no wrong way. There's no wrong way to meditate. There is no wrong way to write this response poem. we have a template which invites you to do a gratitude list with a thank you, which was Carrie's invitation to us. But I think that the best way to do it is to just get the pen moving and see what happens, and keep your hand moving ahead of the editor. And let's see where we land. And I'm going to time us at about, it's 3:26 right now, according to my phone. So what do you think, 10 minutes? Does that feel good? 5 or 10? Padre? 10. Abby says 10. Okay, she wins. So I'm going to chime us again at the end of 10 minutes, and then we will go into our individual rooms to share with our friends. So let's begin writing together. 5 more minutes. If you're still writing, come to the end of your thought. Winding toward a pause or a conclusion. The first poem or the first program I created was, it still exists, called the True Body Project. And I worked with many teen girls and we did lots of writing and as a group. And so I like to imagine all of you in our circle together. And one of my favorite writing postures in a group is the laying on the belly on the floor. So I enjoy thinking of you all in that way. So Abby now is going to put us into small groups. I think we'll take another 10 minutes in our group. And I suggest that you introduce yourselves to one another, perhaps share where you are in space and time. Share your writing with one another. And I'm sure many of you have been in these dyads and triads and small groups. And so we don't need to solve anyone's problem. We just need to have a big, wide, open heart to listen to what is being shared. And then perhaps at the end, if it works out time-wise, you might just share something that you noticed of the other person, their poem, or even the room they're in, just as a way of bearing witness to each other in this moment. But I'm pretty sure you can't really do it wrong. So let's meet our new friends. Abby, can you put us in our small groups? Okay, so you're being asked to join a breakout room. So I'm going to click on. Does anybody want to, in the chat box, if you would like to have us open up your mic to hear your experience in your small group and or to read to us, that would be awesome. I'll wait to see if anybody comes in. And Manuel, I'd love to hear from you if you're game. Just waiting.
Yes,
Oh, am I seeing? Oh, okay, great. So let's start with Christine. Can you find Christine, Abby?
Mm-hmm. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Abby. We're big fans of each other.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I love poetry and I love reading out loud, so I'm going to say yes to an opportunity. So here's what I wrote. And P.S. I'm smiling, but I'm doing anger more than gratitude, so that's where I went. The stones in my belly press deep below the anchor of my agency. I will lift them out into this shared space, heft them, maybe with the help of tears, maybe with your support, maybe with the burst I call anger or agitation, and some name bitch. But I trust a bitch, and I trust this anger to hoist these belly stones made of interruptions from my dancing son and music blares from my other, all the sorrow from a restaurant community of tipless servers. And do you know the weight of transplacing your crankiness on your spouse, his shoulders already heavy with a business that serves whiskey to no one, every bar stool missing its stories? I will try gratefulness tonight, later. I will place these stones on the altar where the fire of my peace has not gone out.
Thank you so much. Spectacular.
Thanks.
I'm just going to go in order down the list here. Manuel. And while we're getting Manuel is our Cincinnati's Poet Laureate currently.
Well, fair warning, I'm gonna read this twice because I wrote it in Spanish. So I'm gonna do my best to read it in English, translate it on the go, and then I'm gonna read the original. I cannot write poetry in English yet. So I have to go back and transition, okay? So thank you, poem. For everything that I want to rescue from oblivion, and everything that I have unfairly forgotten. For the line that a bird makes in the air, for the quietness of the flower at night, for my daughter's laughter, and for the light that inhabits it, for this house that protects her, and because she justifies the house, because being afraid of losing everything is a way to know everything you have. For all of this, I offer these sounds, these syllables that are nothing but a fearful prayer. por lo que quiero rescatar del olvido y por lo que he injustamente olvidado, por el trazo del pájaro en el aire, por la quietud de la flor en la noche, por la risa de mi hija y por la luz que la habita, por la casa que la protege a ella y porque ella justifica la casa, porque tener miedo de perderlo todo es una manera de saber todo lo que se tiene. Por eso ofrezco estas sílabas, estas palabras que no son otra cosa que una temerosa plegaria.
And everyone, Manuel will be back on some of our sessions, all of our sessions. We haven't figured it out yet, but he will do more hosting duty and sharing duty later, although I haven't really told him that, but you'll get to see more of Manuel. Now that I've just sort of committed him. Thank you so much. So we have about, I would love to hear from Reina, Sandra, and Alyssa, and then we're going to turn it back over to me just to do some final housekeeping, and then we'll end with Padre again with his comments and another poetry reading. How does that sound, everybody? Good? All right, so Reina.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm gonna unplug my. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Grateful for my racing heart, my sweaty palms, my itchy throat, my tightened chest, the mind that wonders at bedtime, asking, am I well? Then falls into the heavy drapery of silence and sleep, disrupted by dreams and the padding little footsteps to wake me for the 15,000th time in his 8 long years. Grateful for hot water cornbread with greens and beans, just the way the ancestors carried across the water in ship holds, carrying and giving from generation to generation the oral wisdom of survival from what seems small, granular, like hope, like holding on and breath, even in a stench-filled bottom of a slave ship. This is the food I eat now, the grains that steady the hand, that massage the throat, ease the heart, that cool this aching skin. This is the food I carry and share in bounty, like hope, holding on, like breath.
Beautiful. So good to see you. Thank you.
You too.
Sandra?
I'm going to forego this opportunity right now because I have to go teach my own class in 4 minutes. So I'll just stay on until I have to leave, but maybe another time I'll share.
Thank you, Sandra. Alyssa?
Should preface this by saying my elderly mother has moved in and is down the hall, and she may barge in at any moment. So we should think of our humanity as a privilege, the teacher said, and I am grateful in the morning that my ancient mother, who is here now, escaping the city, hovers outside my bedroom door in the country, calling my name in gratitude, and I call back through the paint and the wood. Thank you, I tell her, for wanting her coffee, which I'm happy to pour, for wanting her men, who I cannot provide.
Thank you. Beautiful. So a little bit of final housekeeping before I turn it back over to Padre. So you're going to get an email that gives you all of the information about getting all of the resources for Mindful Poetry Moments, including the poem we're going to honor next week, Gregory Orr's Let's Remake the World with Words. Beautiful poem. You'll also have an introduction to Troy Bronson from the Hive in Cincinnati. Another introduction to Manuel, who read for us. Amy Hunter with the Mercantile Library and the programs they have there, as well as Amy Tuttle with WordPlay. They were our original co-hosts of the in-person gathering. So we want to just share what they're up to. And we're going to also invite you to share what you're working on in your world, as well as if you want to copy and send us your response poems to share more broadly. We've also recorded this, so I'm hopeful that you'll allow us to share this out. If for some reason you have, I guess I should have said so at the beginning, I don't know how this works, but if you have a challenge with that, let us know. Otherwise, we will be sharing. And golly, I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but
Can I just say, Padre, I've been listening religiously to Poetry Unbound, and it is like, I don't even have a word, and I'm a word person for it. I just love it deeply.
Thank you. And with that, what a perfect introduction to our finale. Padre?
So we're going to read read this poem again. And there is a Poetry Unbound coming out on Friday, a special poem that we recorded last week in honor of healthcare workers. So it's a special that's coming out on Friday. So look out for that. I want to thank Christine and Manuel and Rena and Alyssa for reading their beautiful pieces. It was lovely. Here's the poem, Carrie Newcomer's 3 Gratitudes. Every night before I go to sleep, I say out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. All the significant, insignificant, extraordinary, ordinary stuff of my life. It's a small practice and humble, and yet I find I sleep better, holding what lightens and softens my life ever so briefly at the end of the day. Sunlight and blueberries, good dogs and wool socks, a fine rain, a good friend, fresh basil and wild phlox, my father's good health, my daughter's new job, the song that always makes me cry, always at the same part, no matter how many times I hear it, decent coffee at the airport, and your quiet breathing, the stories you told me, the frost patterns on the windows, English horns and banjos, wood thrush and June bugs, the smooth glassy calm of the morning pond, an old coat, new poem, my library card, and that my car keeps running despite all the miles. And after 3 things, more often than not, I get on a roll and I just keep on going. I keep naming and listing until I lie grinning, blankets pulled up to my chin, awash with wonder at the sweetness of it all.
Thank you. Thanks to Greg for staying up late and joining us, and On Being for being our convener, our connector, and to all of you. So I'm super grateful. Can't wait to hear from all of you and see you hopefully next Wednesday, same time. Bye. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
See you all.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Pedrick.
Thank you so much.
So much. You rescued me today. Thank you.
Mhm. Beautiful, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.